In 1888, a teenage girl's jawbone fell out of her face while she was eating dinner. She worked at a match factory. That was considered normal for her job. And honestly, that's not even the worst one. For most of human history, workplace safety meant try not to die on company property because the cleanup is annoying. We're talking about jobs where the life expectancy wasn't retirement at 65. It was, maybe you'll see Thursday. So today, we're looking at actual historical jobs that were basically just slow-motion death sentences. And I'm not talking about, oh, it was a little dangerous. I mean jobs where your bones would glow in the dark, or your face would rot off, or you'd just drown in human sewage. And the wildest part, people knew these jobs were killing workers. They just didn't care. Because human lives were cheaper than fixing the problem. Let's start with probably the most visually horrifying job on this list. Victorian England. You're a teenage girl working in a match factory. Your job is to dip wooden sticks into a chemical called white phosphorus for 14 to 16 hours a day in a room with no ventilation. White phosphorus makes matches that light anywhere, super convenient for consumers. But for you, you're breathing in phosphorus fumes all day. And if you complain about a toothache, you get fired. So you don't complain. Until one day your tooth doesn't just hurt, it's glowing. This was called phossy-jaw. The phosphorus would seep into your jawbone and cause it to rot from the inside, while still attached to your face. Here's the progression. Toothache, abscess, your jawbone literally decomposes in your skull, and in severe cases, the rotting bone and pus would glow greenish white in the dark. Some workers' breath smelled like garlic. Some had their entire lower jaw just detach, fall off. You'd either die from brain infection or blood poisoning. The really fun part, companies knew this was happening. They just kept hiring teenage girls because they were cheap labor. It took a massive strike in 1888, the famous Match Girls strike, to even start getting attention. White phosphorus wasn't banned internationally until 1906. Decades. Decades after they knew was melting people's faces. Okay, you know the phrase, mad as a hatter? Yeah, that's not a metaphor. That's mercury poisoning. Hat makers in the 18th and 19th centuries used mercuric nitrate to treat animal fur. The process was called carroting, which sounds cute until you realize it released mercury vapor every time they heated the material. And where did that vapor go? Directly into their lungs. Every day. For years. Symptoms included violent hand tremors, called the Danbury Shakes, slurred speech, loss of coordination, extreme mood swings, paranoia, hallucinations, and something called pathological shyness, where workers would literally hide from visitors. Oh, and your teeth would fall out, and your gums would turn black, so that's fun. But here's the thing, mercury poisoning symptoms look a lot like being drunk. So instead of helping these workers, society just mocked them, called them alcoholics, laughed at them. Mercury wasn't banned in United States hat making until 1941. Moving on, before I get too mad. Okay, quick check-in. Are you seeing a pattern here? Because I'm seeing a pattern, and it gets worse. Because the next job, these women were literally told the poison was good for them. Early 1900s. You're a young woman painting watch dials with glow-in-the-dark radium paint. It's seen as a glamorous job, good pay, clean work. You're making stuff for the military. Management tells you radium is healthy. Some even suggest it has healing properties. To keep your brush sharp, you're taught a technique, lip dip paint. You put the brush in your mouth, lick it to a point, dip it in radium paint, and paint the dial. Hundreds of times per day. Radium mimics calcium. Your body thinks it's bone material, so it absorbs it permanently, and then it irradiates you from the inside for the rest of your life. Here's what happened. Their teeth fell out. Dentists would pull a tooth, and the entire jawbone would come with it. Their bones became porous. Honeycombed is the term so brittle that women's legs would snap while they were just walking. Massive bone cancers, bone marrow failure, anemia. And when women started dying, the companies didn't admit fault. They claimed the women had syphilis, publicly, to discredit them. But the Radium Girls fought back. Their lawsuits created the legal right to sue your employer for workplace injury. They changed labor law while their bones were disintegrating. That's the legacy. Let's talk about children. In Victorian England, little boys, sometimes as young as 4 years old, were sent up chimneys to scrape out soot. They were small enough to fit in spaces adults couldn't. They risked suffocation in narrow flues. Burns if the chimney was still hot. Fatal falls. And because they were covered in soot all day, every day, they developed one of the first identified occupational cancers, chimney sweep cancer. It was so common, it had a name. Oh, and if you got stuck, if the chimney was too narrow and you couldn't move, sometimes they'd light a fire below you to motivate you to climb faster. Child labor laws didn't improve until a boy died stuck in a chimney in 1875 and the public finally got mad enough to do something. But for decades before that, totally fine, apparently. Coal miners had two ways to die, fast or slow. Fast meant cave-ins, methane explosions called fire damp, flooding, or getting crushed by machinery. These accidents killed hundreds at a time. Between 1880 and 1923, over 70,000 U.S. coal miners died. In 1907 alone, more than 3,200 miners were killed. But if you survived the explosions, you got the slow death, coal dust, in your lungs, every shit for years. It's called black lung disease, and it suffocates you, slowly. Your lungs fill with dust until you can't breathe anymore. And this wasn't hidden. Everyone knew, the companies knew, the government knew. They just kept mining. Okay, last one. And this is maybe the most viscerally disgusting job on the list. Gong Farmer. Medieval and early modern Europe. Your job? Emptying cesspits and latrines. By hand. Usually at night because nobody wanted to watch. You're climbing into pits full of human waste, scooping it out hoping you don't, A, get knocked unconscious by toxic gases, or B, slip, fall in, and drown in sewage. Both happened. Frequently. The hilarious part, they were paid well for this, because obviously no one else wanted to do it. But even with good pay, life expectancy was shockingly short, because no amount of money makes it safe to drown in poop. So here's the thing that gets me about all of these jobs. None of this was accidental. These weren't freak tragedies or unforeseeable risks. People knew white phosphorus destroyed jaws. They knew mercury caused brain damage. They knew radium was deadly. They just decided human lives were cheaper than solving the problem. And it only changed when workers, often women, often children, fought back. Went on strike, sued, forced the system to see them as people instead of disposable tools. Progress wasn't given. It was taken. By people whose bones were already glowing in the dark. So yeah, next time someone complains about workplace safety regulations, maybe send them this video. If this somehow didn't completely ruin your day, subscribe. Because I make a lot of videos about history being way darker than you thought. Drop a comment and tell me which of these jobs you think was the absolute worst. I genuinely can't decide. They're all horrifying, and if you want more stuff like this, there's a video on screen right now about everyday activities that were illegal 500 years ago. That will keep the nightmare going. Thanks for watching. Stay safe at work. Seriously.